Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest Wreck-It Ralph sequel called Ralph Breaks the Internet. This is a sequel to the 2012 hit from Disney. Um, for those who remember way back in the day, back in 2012, I absolutely loved that first Wreck-It Ralph movie. One of the best films of the year for me, in my opinion. It really was up there with, The Avengers, Ruby Sparks, The Dark Knight Rises. It really was a huge film for me for that year. So I waited several years for another Wreck-It Ralph movie to finally come out. Disney finally came out with one, and let me tell you, it is great. I loved this movie. This film is called Ralph Breaks the Internet. So there really isn't a Wreck-It Ralph 2 in the title at all, really just called Ralph Breaks the Internet. But for the story of this film, you guys, Ralph and his friend Vanellope from the first film, they run into a problem with the Sugar Rush arcade game at Litwack's Arcade. Um, one of the parts that's used for the steering wheel for the Sugar Rush game has been broken, and so Litwack has to the owner of the arcade, Mr. Litwack, has to basically find a new part off eBay since the person who, or since the distributor slash game maker of the Sugar Rush game is kind of no longer in business. So now they got to look on eBay for a spare part, and it's very expensive. So basically, because there is a new Wi-Fi router in the arcade, Ralph and Vanellope use that as their opportunity to basically go to the internet, track down the steering wheel that Vanellope needs to fix her Sugar Rush game, and all will be well again once they track down the part. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive part. They do have to go to eBay to get it. They do search around and kind of see all their options on the internet, and really kind of the eBay route is really the only way to get this part for Vanellope's game. And on the way there, they meet up with characters named Shank, who's voiced by Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman recently. And she's kind of in this Grand Theft Auto slash, I forgot the name of that game. There was a really violent game with like a clown on the cover. For those who really know a lot about video games might remember it, but I think it was a PlayStation game. Twisted Metal. I think that's what it was called. Twisted Metal. It had like a fire clown on the cover, and it was like a violent racing game. So it was kind of Twisted Metal meets Grand Theft Auto. That's kind of what this game was themed of. And so Gal Gadot's kind of the leader of this gang, and her name is Shank. And they basically have to try to steal her car, and that's worth a lot of money. And so obviously they can't do that, and so they have to refigure out how to get this money for this steering wheel thing. And so they find out about a character named Yes, who's voiced by Taraji P. Henson from Empire and the Karate Kid remake. And she tells them that they do these series of successful videos. There's this thing on BuzzFeed where if it gets a lot of likes, a lot of hearts, they can get a lot of money for it and stuff like that. So basically, that's kind of how they get to their goal in the end, is to try to make all these really successful videos using Ralph. And since people know about the Wreck-It Ralph arcade game from back in the day, the video is going to get more views and stuff like that. So really, this film is about getting Vanellope a new steering wheel for her game, and them kind of going to the internet and figuring out how to get it and how to successfully, blend in the internet and be a part of these videos and do all the stuff that in the end will give them the steering wheel to get Vanellope's game back and up and running again. So overall, guys, like I said at the very beginning, I loved this movie. This film is so much fun. It really is, for me personally, one of the best films of 2018 so far. The visuals are great. The voice acting's great. The ideas are strong. It continues the Wreck-It Ralph story in all the right ways. There's always that long going battle of, oh well, the sequels will never be as good as the original. And though that might be the case with Wreck-It Ralph, the thing with Ralph Breaks the Internet though is it really does acknowledge that it has to be its own film. It also has to continue the first Wreck-It Ralph film while also pursuing new ideas, and it does all these things very successfully. It still is a video game movie, but it's also a movie about the internet, and it's also a movie about creating video content on YouTube and creating video content on BuzzFeed and really kind of personalizing everything yourself and really kind of putting your voice out there, and hopefully the internet will respond well to you as a result. And the film also kind of plays around with what happens when the internet doesn't respond so well. What happens when you start seeing comments that kind of make you feel bad about yourself and your creativity kind of falls back and you really feel like the things you're doing aren't as good as they could be and things like that. So the film really kind of plays around with those kind of ideas. So let's go over some positives and negatives of why I really liked Ralph Breaks the Internet. First and foremost, you guys, the ideas and themes about the internet I thought were very interesting and strong. Like I was going over about a second ago, it really does focus on the good and the bad of the internet and kind of how it's a good creative outlet while also being a bad one. While we also have to be careful with what we post and stuff like that. The film also kind of plays around with Amazon and Google and eBay and how auctions are handled and how we have to avoid things like clickbait on the internet and have to avoid bad scams and making money by playing video games on the internet and how that can be kind of tricky sometimes and how the dark web can be a very dark place and how you really don't want to get involved with things that are on the dark web and things like that. So the film kind of plays around with all these ideas and it's a very interesting film as a result. And like I said earlier, the visuals in this film are very amazing. They really do take the advantage of the fact that they are on the internet. So they take advantage of the word website. So what they do is they kind of make everything feel like a web, like a big spider web, and everything's kind of interlinked with each other. And so if you want to go to Amazon, you want to go to eBay, you want to go to BuzzFeed, there's this big city of the Wi-Fi internet thing that they go to, and it's really just kind of a very amazing thing to witness. So I thought they handled the visuals in this film very, very well. There is tons of character development and friendship growth in this film. So if you liked the whole Ralph and Vanellope friendship from the first film, they do continue that in this movie. They kind of play off of where they were at the end of the first film and kind of where their friendship goes and kind of the flaws of their friendship, what they have to do to grow as characters. What are some good, independent activities for Ralph and Vanellope, and what are good activities for them to do together, and so forth. So the film plays around with all these ideas, and I thought it handled them very, very well. This is also a very fun film. I just had so much fun watching this film. It really is very entertaining and just so much fun to watch. It really does take you on a ride the whole time. It's just so much fun and just really satisfying as a viewer. I was just really hoping for another great Wreck-It Ralph film, and I certainly got it. It's just a fun Disney time at the theater while also making you think about everything you're witnessing kind of film. It really is a very fun film. Also, all the Disney properties are acknowledged in this film in a way. There's a lot of Disney property nostalgia. So if you like Star Wars, if you like Marvel, if you like the Disney princesses, if you like the Pixar films, if you like the Muppets, all those characters are featured in this film, and all in interesting ways. The characters interact with them, specifically the Disney princesses. They're not just there to be there. They're not just there for one scene. They really kind of get involved in the story. They kind of have their each little individual traits that they bring to the film and so forth. There's even small touches like, what was I pointing out to the friends that I went to see the movie with? Tiana, I think her name is, the princess from Princess and the Frog. Like when they have their slumber party, she has like her own little Starbucks drink, and I think one of the girls from Frozen had a shirt that said "Just Let It Go" on it, and just little clever stuff like that you probably wouldn't pick up on unless you were really looking closely. And I thought the Starbucks thing was really clever too, and there was just a lot of funny stuff in there where if you're really looking for it, it's just a ton of fun to witness. And there was also a great voice cast in this film. Gal Gadot from the Wonder Woman films and from like the DC films in general. She has a role in this film named Shank, like I brought up earlier. And like I said, the voice cast was great. Alan Tudyk, who played Turbo in King Candy, he voices a new character this time around named Mr. Knowsmore, I think his name was. So really just a fun cast. Almost all the cast from the first film returned for the most part. Just a really fun film overall. So another, I guess, for negatives of Ralph Breaks the Internet, why it's probably not quite as good as the first film, but it's still a very strong sequel, I feel. I really thought there could have been more video game elements. So that is one nitpick I am going to bring up is I really feel like though they have it, though it's in there, though when they go to the internet it's not completely dropped, but I really do feel like more video game elements could have been used in this film because the first film applied that in just the right ways and it was so much fun the first time around. And though this film, definitely more so is a focus on the internet, I understand that. I thought more of a video game element to the story I thought really would have benefited the movie too. I also didn't like how there really wasn't any kind of sense of time in the movie, and I also feel like the fear of game jumping with characters. So like when Ralph went to a different game and was there for too long in the first film, that really freaked a lot of characters out. Fix It Felix and the girl who eventually became the wife in the first one, they really had to kind of go out and find him and figure out what he was doing because if he wasn't back in time, their game got shut down. And so the film kind of acknowledges this in a sense, but it really doesn't feel as severe as it did in the first Wreck-It Ralph film. I feel like in this film, if Ralph's gone for a long time, there's really not a big deal. Life goes on, and somehow the Fix It Felix game will live on somehow. So I really didn't like how in this film they kind of ignored the whole going turbo game jump thing. They kind of pushed that off to the side in favor of the internet stuff, and as a result, really no time kind of passes. It just kind of happens overnight for all the internet stuff, and it's just kind of like I felt like there could have been more of a time constraint with that. I also felt like the whole sugar rush thing got ignored after a while. Once they kind of figure out what to do with the part and how to get the thing on eBay and how they're going to do it financially and stuff. The whole thing with Sugar Rush, I think, kind of got abandoned after a while, and that's really too bad because Vanellope kind of is on the side of the game council. So once again, kind of like Ralph and the whole game jumping thing, if she's not back in time, that's probably going to hurt her game after a while. So I thought that part of the story was kind of ignored in kind of a strange way. So there was just certain things they did. They kind of favored the story maybe a little bit too much, and as a result, some of the rules of the first Wreck-It Ralph just kind of feel irrelevant as a result, which is not the greatest idea in my opinion. But overall, I am going to give Ralph Breaks the Internet a 9.5 out of 10. Really strong film, one of the best films of 2018, I feel. Like I said, tons of great things to love about this film. And for the negatives, they're really just more so nitpicks, just things that they could have done to possibly make this better than the first Wreck-It Ralph, which I feel it just barely missed. It just barely missed it. But it really is one of the best films of 2018 so far. And like I said, if there just was a couple more video game elements, more of a focus on game jumping and kind of the fears and flaws of that, have a sense of time, and have a sense of Sugar Rush being acknowledged more, this film definitely could have easily been right up there with the first one. Just missed it by a hair, but still a very strong sequel from Disney. I loved Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I hope everybody sees this film because it really is probably one of the best films of 2018.